Hey everybody, I'm Eric Oberembt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt. Today is an exciting episode because it is the first episode that we are filming in the new studio in Houston, Texas. So that's fun. And I'm really excited about our guest today. This is going to be a little bit different episode for her than the tour that she is going on. But I'd like to introduce my guest today, Jenna Lawson. Jenna, thank you for being here.
Hi, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So you are on a little bit of a tour repping. What the fuck are you repping? Like I don't even know what you do anymore.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of everything. So RoofCon, Revolt, Roofing.com. So the events that we go to, the events that we put on, I'm kind of over it all with organizing it throughout the year and just leading it and planning it. So I'm a little bit of everywhere all the time.
Got it. And I know that you're traveling a little bit and talking about that, but that is not what we are doing today.
Exactly.
I give zero fucks about what you do for a living. I want everybody to know what you do for a living and who you work for, because it's important to me and that organization is important to me. But that's not what we do here. Yeah. Obviously, and you know this, right? But we like to dig in a little bit, get to know each other a little bit better. I've said this a million times, but like one of the reasons that I put this show together was to have an opportunity to be able to sit down and talk to people and get to know them better. And, you know, we're in such a quick, fast society that we live in today. It's, hey, how you doing? Great. Kids good. Yeah. Talk to you later. Yep. Right. And we never get to actually sit down and have conversations. And your story intrigued me because you're like 13 years old. I don't know. How old are you?
I'm 25. I just turned 25.
Just turned 25 and are sober, which is fucking wild to me for a couple of reasons. I remember when I went to rehab, I was 30 and there were like young people in rehab and I was like, well, this is never going to stick. Right. Cause I'm like, how the fuck can you get sober that young? Just cause you haven't seen what I've seen, you know what I mean? You just cause you haven't had enough time. Right. I wish that I would have figured that out earlier so I didn't have to see everything that I saw, right? And everything that I did and everything that I was a part of. But that's part of my story. I'm super interested in your story and how you got here today. Because again, getting sober at what age?
23.
At 23. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the backstory behind that. Like kind of why you needed to get sober, you know, first of all. And then what got you here now? So what was Jenna like at 17?
Well, the thing is I didn't even start drinking until I was about 19.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So I went all through high school, you know, senior week at the beach, had no alcohol, not a single drop. Yeah. So I kind of was a late bloomer with it. You know, obviously 19's not even the legal drinking age, but right. All my friends started drinking when they were 15, even earlier.
Yeah. I mean, I was 12,
exactly.
13. Yeah.
That's a normal thing to do. And then I just started when I was 19. I'd always been against alcohol when I was younger because I experienced alcoholism. First, foremost, like my dad, he was an alcoholic. His dad was an alcoholic. So it ran in the family. And I hated to put something in my body that was, you know, basically killing people in my family. Right. So that was just a major thing of why I didn't drink. But then I was like, you know what? Well, whatever. I'm just going to drink. So,
I'm different.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm different.
I'm not
different.
them.
Yeah, exactly. And I just started drinking. It was kind of just like a once in a while thing. Got to college, went out, you know, I had it under control in college. I really did. And, you know, went out every once in a while. When I turned 21, that's kind of when it started, kind of evolving. 21st birthday, I think that was my first like blackout. And that's normal. That's expected, like on your 21st. I mean, sure. That's what happens. But I remember I, woke up and that was my first experience of not knowing what I did.
Right.
And, I did some stupid shit and like, that was just what I did. And
blackouts are fucking scary.
Yeah.
Like I was a blackout drinker.
Yeah.
Right. And I always have fun conversations with people that weren't. Right. Because like, and alcoholics nonetheless. Right. And they recognized it and they changed their ways, but they're like, I wasn't a blackout drinker. I'm like, what the fuck is that like?
Yeah.
Like, what is that like to remember what you did all night?
Yeah.
Like I never did.
Yeah, exactly.
Never did. But sorry, go on.
And and that's another thing, like, even if I only had a couple of drinks, it was weird. It was like my like I'd be black. Like there'd be moments where I couldn't remember and I wouldn't be drunk. I just wouldn't be anything, but it was weird. But then that started and then it kind of picked up. I wasn't an everyday drinker. I was maybe once, twice a week. I didn't know who you were going to get. Like, I didn't know if you were going to get the sane Jenna or whatever. And it started really picking up. And what made me open up my eyes a little bit was when my dad, the alcoholic, was telling me that he was worried about my drinking. So that was when it kind of...
And he was still actively drinking and still does?
So he unfortunately passed back in 2021. So we'll get into that.
Okay.
And
it's because it's... Sorry. Yeah, that's later on down the road in the story.
It's a big thing. Yeah. And so when he noticed that, it was kind of like, okay, well, your dad's alcoholic. He's noticing you. And, when I was about 17, he had told me that the doctors had told him if he keeps drinking, he was going to die in 5 years. He had told him that. And, I was keeping track of him. It was like I was worrying about my parents.
Because of like liver function stuff? Okay.
Yeah. And then, his drinking kind of died down. But then I felt like when his died down, mine kind of picked up. He kept doing it. But then, as it went on, I noticed that I was just tearing relationships apart. Like I was doing what I always told myself I didn't want my family to be partaking in. And I was doing the opposite. It was kind of like I was a hypocrite. I've always struggled with mental health. Always. And you add alcohol into the mix and it's 10 times worse.
Right. Were you on antidepressants too?
Yes, I've been.
And that'll fuck you up.
I've been on that since I was 14 on the highest dosage.
Man, and if you drink on that,
oof. Yeah. And
I did that for a hot second.
Exactly.
And that was terrible.
And I think that's a big reason of why, what I was saying a minute ago, that it just clouded my memory.
Did you have that whole feeling when you were drinking on antidepressants that like nothing mattered?
Yeah.
Like nothing mattered. You didn't care about anybody. Yeah. Like, exactly. The closest people to you, and you were like, I don't love them. I don't give a shit about them at all. Like, I don't even feel anything. That was when I got scared, when I finally had that revelation, and I was like, ooh, got to stop that. Wasn't going to stop the drinking, but I was going to stop the pills. But yeah, go on.
And that's actually what was scary to me is like when I was drinking, I was doing it for the wrong reason. I wasn't doing it to be a normal college person. Like I was doing it because my mindset was... It changed. Like at first it was the normal drinking and then it changed. It shifted my perspective in why I was drinking. I was drinking to get drunk. I was not drinking for the feeling to fit in. I was drinking ultimately to get drunk. And then that was when, I had one drink, I would chase another one. And it's like, I would keep doing it, but then the next week I'd be fine. I wouldn't do it then. But when my dad passed back in June of 2021, I just started my new job. He was actually in the hospital whenever I started. Like nobody at work knew. And then about 2 weeks in, I had said, my dad's about to pass. I'm going to be out for a little while.
And Hunter said, fuck you, get behind the desk.
Yeah, I know. No, they were great. Hunter's great. But they had told him in the hospital that, if he wasn't an alcoholic, that, he would have been able to fought off the pneumonia that he had. So it's just... that opened up my eyes 100%. But then I kept drinking that year. Like I noticed that.
Did it accelerate because of that event?
It did 100%. Yeah. For example, one night I had gone out to downtown and I got super, super drunk. It was like 3 a.m. Got home, chugged a bottle of wine, sat by my dad's picture, got in my car and drove. No clue how long I was gone. No clue where I went. No clue how I got home. I don't even know. There's so many times where I would drive. My dad used to always tell me, like, I don't care where you are. Do not drive. Like, always call me. But then I did it anyway because when I was just drunk, it was just a different version of me.
Because you make different decisions when you're drunk, right? Exactly. Like, I've always said, like, I made a shitload of bad decisions in my life, but I don't think I made 1% of them sober.
Yeah.
I just didn't, right? Like, I mean, I didn't put myself in those situations unless I was putting something in my body that changed how I act.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, go on. I apologize.
And I had no remembrance, and that's happened countless times. I would wake up, blood everywhere, drop.
Blood?
Yeah.
Did you have drunk girl bruises on your legs?
Yes,
Yeah.
It was awful. Yes, all the time. I hated being the drunk girl in the bar, those obnoxious girls.
You got to wear pants because it's
literally.
It was always drunk girl bruises on your legs. And I'm like, how'd you get those? Fuck, I don't know.
I jump in bushes. Like, I do absolutely anything. Like, and that's crazy. But the last night I drank, I ended up in the hospital. I admitted myself because I actually tried to commit suicide. And the doctor came in there. He had told me I was 4 times the legal limit. And ever since that moment, I have not drank. That was December 31st, 2021. I was 23 years old. I was in the behavioral part of the hospital. And
you checked yourself in.
I did because
Were you drunk when you did it?
Yes.
Okay.
I was. And that's the crazy part, is because there was maybe a 1% sober me that was thinking, but the other part of me was so, I guess, ashamed, even if she was drunk, was so ashamed because I kept telling myself, Jenna, like, this is the last time. Like, you've got it under control. But yet I would still do it anyway. I would embarrass myself. I would embarrass my relationships, my family, everyone. And I was so tired of letting everybody down, including my dad, that I felt like I was letting down when he passed months prior. And I just felt like a failure. So I just literally, that's happened before, but not alcohol wasn't involved, but alcohol just accelerated that.
So what did you do to try and kill yourself?
I wanted to take pills. So yeah, so it was crazy. Like I don't have any remembrance of that night. I don't know what happened.
So did you take the pills?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't. No, I did not. I think I was with some friends, and it was just that whole night is still such a blur that I really don't even remember it. But when the doctor had came into that room, I knew when he had told me that, it's like my whole mindset just changed. I walked out of the hospital, and this is so cliche, but a new person. Mm-hmm. I walked out of the hospital with this mindset that I was never going to have anything control me like alcohol did. Mm-hmm. And, only being 23 years old, I'm just now getting started into like the, being able to legally drink and that. But I knew that if I was going to continue, I would be where my dad was.
Yeah.
And that absolutely terrified me. And so my goal was to not only do it for me, but to do it for my dad and to do it for others that weren't able to do it in time. So I made it my mission to stop drinking. People ask me all the time, am I going to ever drink again? I tell them no, because that's still giving alcohol the control over me if I give them a date of when I'm going to start drinking again.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid.
So I have no clue what my plans are, but right now at this very second, and this is what it's been for 1.5 years, I'm never drinking again.
Yeah.
Because
do you identify as an alcoholic?
Do
you think you are an alcoholic?
In my opinion, no.
Okay.
Because there's different alcoholics. There's, the functional alcoholic. You have the one that drinks like every day. And, it's just, it's such a broad range of that topic. And it's just, I didn't consider myself one, but, looking back, I think I had the early stages of alcoholism. Okay. So I don't know if you would call that an alcoholic or at the beginning. I don't know. But I definitely did have a drinking problem.
Let's dig into that. This is an interesting segue, because I've got I get different reactions from different people, depending upon how far this conversation goes. So you quit drinking because you have no idea who's going to show up. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing, right? You have no idea who's going to show up. Do you think that is a learned habit, or it's just kind of who you are? Because I'll tell you me. Yeah. I think it's part of my DNA. Mm-hmm. Because if I drink, right, and I've said this a million times, the only thing that I know I can control is whether or not I take the first drink, right? And tell me if you disagree with any of this for you personally. But once I take that first drink, I have lost all of my control because the alcohol or the drugs. Did you ever take drugs? Were you a drug girl?
I did not.
Sorry. Those are fun too. But I know that if once I lose the control over the first drink, once it's in my body, I don't have control about what happens next.
Yeah.
Right? Because it goes back to that. I don't make bad decisions when I'm sober. Right? But I have no idea what's going to happen after that. There's other people that I know, normal people, as I call them, that can have 1, 2, 3, 4 drinks, whatever, and they're completely fine, completely level-headed, can make rational decisions, right, for the most part, and can go, I'm good, I'm done, and be okay with it and go home. I could have nights back in the day where I would have 2 or 3 drinks and then I would go home, but I would be kind of pissed off the whole time because I'm like, fuck, I would rather have stayed or have the bottle at home, or like, I want to keep going, right? It's just how I'm wired, right? My question to you is, and this is not a me trying to convince you you're an alcoholic, it's just to have kind of a introspective conversation with yourself while you're sitting here with me. And in understanding, do you think you have control, any type of control after you take that first drink?
I don't want to go steal it. Yes, but no.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do know what
Does
you're
it make
saying.
sense? And I'm not trying to like trap you into something.
No,
like it's important to me because what I don't want to see is I have people come in here that we talk about recovery, right? And I've had people come in here and go, I'm a recovered alcoholic, right? Which means they thought that they were an alcoholic for a period of time, right? And then they fucking miraculously are not anymore, right? Something happened. Yeah. Now, what I learned was most of those people, it was because they went through the whole like born again process, right? And that's kind of a thing where you you leave your old life behind and, blah, 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 blah. And that's fine for those people. But what I worry about is there's so many people out there that are also in the same mindset that you are, that are like, right? And they don't really know where they land in a spectrum or, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, they really fucking are alcoholics, and they just don't want to admit it, and they don't want to own it, right? Because they don't want to think that they have a label now, right? And then what happens is that they keep thinking that they can go back out and try it again, right? And every single fucking time it ends the same way or worse, right? Or you have the people that say, I'm recovered. And then there's all these people that are just getting started and they go, oh, well, how long did that take you? Oh, 2 years? Okay, so if I can just not drink for 2 years, I'm recovered, right? Like there's no fucking timeline to it, right? So to give you a little bit of insight into like the way that I see it is, I know that I can't drink anymore, because if I do, this is what will happen. And maybe there's that 1% chance that it wouldn't, but do I want to take that risk, right? It goes back to the old adage, and this is crude, but like, if there was a 3% chance that that person I was going to sleep with had AIDS, would I do it? No, probably not, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to take that risk that I might get AIDS and die, right? To me, it's the same thing. It's life or death, because I could die if I started drinking again. Might not be the next day, right? Might not be the next year, but it would eventually catch up and happen to me. And so again, I'm not trying to like, I don't want to I'm not trying to finish up at the end of when we get done talking with you having this big revelation, but that hopefully when you do leave, it gives you some shit to think about. Yeah. Right? Because the other thing that I know, Lexi and I were talking, and she said, well, you guys were talking in the car, that you still have quote unquote cravings, right? So tell me about that.
Being 25, just turned 25, it's like these thoughts are always going through my head of, did I just drink? Like life's easier if you just drink, because life's centered around it, especially in your 20s. And I have not acted upon these thoughts. It's crazy because I think back to who it made me when I was drinking. And really, when I think about the cons of drinking versus the pros, the pros, there's only one pro, is to maybe two, fit in and to feel good for a little bit.
But fit in with who?
Fit in with the other people that are drinking. But then again, it's like, who are you trying to fit in with?
That was kind of the question.
Exactly.
Right.
And I don't even know the answer to that half the time when I ask myself that, because, I was telling Lexi earlier that, I still go out. Like, I still go out and I'm fine with being around people that are drinking. As long as I have something in my hand and make me think that I'm drinking, I'm fine. And I was like, well, I also do that to feel like I'm fitting in with the bar crowd, but the crowd around my age that are drinking, because I'm like one of the only people my age that don't drink. But I've learned to accept it and to accept that I'm not against alcohol. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And, I started my own podcast, A Sober 20 something. And my goal is to let everybody know that alcohol is not this bad thing, but it's just not for everyone.
Correct.
And there's just different perspectives and different mindsets you have to have before you start drinking, I think. Because once you start and you're starting for the wrong reasons, you'll end up like I did.
Right.
And, with those thoughts that I'm always having of wanting to drink, I just think back to my why. Think back from the very beginning of why I'm doing this, and then they're pushed aside. I don't think about it anymore.
Which is what?
Is that just drink?
Now, what's your why?
Oh, my why. My why is, I don't want to be cliche, but it's to be the best person I can possibly be. And I feel like anything that hinders that needs to be kicked to the curb. So that's my why. And it goes back to my dad too. That's my why as well. Like, I'm not doing it only for me. I'm doing it for him.
Right.
And for everybody else that wasn't able to. So it's like when you're thinking about another person besides yourself, that really will open up your eyes.
Yeah.
And it'll make you want to do better.
I don't even think non-alcoholics, like true normal people, can be the best versions of themselves, right? Because if they take it out of their life, like a lot of guys, you'll see guys, gals, whatever, they'll be like, I'm not going to drink for 60 days, right? Like everybody, does that, like sober November, October, whatever the fuck it is. And they're like, oh my God, I got so much more done. And I did this and I did that. And then as soon as that month's over, they're like right back to it. Right. But they don't have the dire consequences, right? That people like I do. Right. And again, I'm not putting you into the same boat as me. But I think you're pretty fucking close, because I worry about what happens, because again, doing this when you're young is so hard, because you are surrounded by younger folks that aren't going through what you're going through. Right. And that's why it's so important to have, you're at the fucking retreats, right? What is preached at the retreats? It's who you surround yourself with. Yeah. Right. And all those men that are sitting in that room are all there for one singular purpose, to get better. Right. And some are at one level, some are at another level, some are lower, some are trying to get up to this level, and blah, 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 blah. But you can't do that unless you're around those people that you're reaching and striving to be. Right. Exactly. And so my hope for you is that as you get older, you learn to worry less about what your peer group is doing, so that it's not affecting you, because it still is affecting you, right? Just because it's who you surround yourself with, friend group wise, right? Or whatever. But that at some point you get to a point where you're like, how is that assisting me in my growth for the future, right? When you're hanging around, when you're at a revolt retreat, right? Does it ever even cross your mind?
No, not at all.
Right? And why do you think that is?
Well, you have so many people that don't drink.
Well, not even that. It's because you're surrounded by people that have no inclination. More than half of them probably do, right? But they're there at these events for different reasons, right? They're at these events to be better, right? You go to some of these other conferences and groups, and all they're doing is getting fucked up. Yeah. Right? but you get to have this opportunity to surround yourself with these group of people that all they want to do is go higher. All they want to do is get better. And you can even tell that when you're around those people, you're different because it doesn't even cross your mind, right? So again, that was what I did. I had to surround myself with people that they were on the same path and the same mission that I was on, whether it was in business or sobriety or whatever it is. So at the end of the day, once you figure out who are those people, right, that 100% support what you're doing. And I'm not saying that your people don't, right? But being very fucking intentional about who you're spending that time with, because there's people watching this that are going through exactly the same thing that you are. And they're like, oh, I'm not drinking, but I've still got these buddies over here and I want to go float on the river with them. And I want to do this and I want to do that and, whatever. And and everything is so alcohol centric and, blah, 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 which you're right. It is. But I remember when I first got sober making these excuses of, well, maybe I'll get through New Year's, or maybe I'll get through this, or maybe I'll get through that. Right. Everybody in my life was so worried when my grandpa died. My grandpa died in 2015. Everybody thought, man, if there's a day that Eric's going to drink, that's the fucking day. Right. But I had done so much work on myself, realizing what I am, what I can't do. And because of the goals that I had, that it didn't even cross my mind. Right. I was sitting in that revolt retreat like you were, not even thinking about it because I had so many other things that were top of mind. Right. This was not meant to be a fucking therapy session, but I care about what happens to you. Right. And I want you to be able to take some information from an old guy that has been through this and been sober for a long time and was probably way worse than you were just because I had more time to do it. But understanding that God, I don't want you to go back out because there's a theory. It's not even a theory because it's a proven fact. But when people like me try to go back out, we pick up exactly where we left off. We don't start back up like we're in college, right? Because what we do is we chase that feeling of the first time that was so innocent and so fun, right? And we tend to forget about how awful it was in the end, right? It's the analogy I always use is people who decide to have multiple children, right? They forget that they didn't get to fucking sleep for the first year, right? Having kids are amazing. I love my daughter. Right? I wouldn't change it for the world. But we forget how goddamn hard it was for that first year and a half. And we do the same thing with drugs and alcohol. If we have a tendency to get in trouble and drink too much, we forget how bad it was at the end, and we romanticize how great it was in the beginning. And that's what ends up us going back out. And instead of taking that 4, 5, 6 years to get back to where you were left off, it takes a few weeks sometimes, or a few days or whatever, to get right back to where you were. Right. So anyway, I get on rants on this because I'm so passionate about it, because I know that there's so many people watching that are going through the exact same thing. Right. So when you say cravings, you're talking more about that feeling of wanting to be part of, and to have that, using or drinking just makes sense.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So 2 things. One, I believe a craving is actually what happens to me after I take a drink. Because I have a drink and then I have a craving to have more, because my body reacts differently to alcohol, because I think I have an allergy. I believe I have an allergy, right, to alcohol. But to your point that I want you to talk a little bit more about is the issue of feeling like you don't fit in, because that was why I drank. Because I felt absolutely fucking alone, right? I could be in a room of 1,000 people and feel absolutely like I was the only one in the room, and I had no courage to talk to anybody, to make friends, to do anything. And the only way out of that was to drink or use. Is that a similar story?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and especially, when you're out and then, people may or may not know that you're drinking or not, whatever, not drinking.
Funny fact, nobody gives a fuck.
Nobody does.
Nobody gives a fuck.
Nobody does. And that's exactly what I've learned. I was so worried about what other people were going to think about me not drinking versus how it was going to make me feel. And after I learned that it does not matter, and I have this fun personality where I can go out and I can have a good time.
Yes, you are fun, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
I think I am fun sometimes when I want to be. But I definitely think that fitting in is such it's a crazy topic, because who sets the standards? You do. You have the power to set the standards that you want to follow. So when I quit drinking, it didn't even register me at first, the obstacles that I was going to face. The obstacles of when I would go places, if they didn't have a non-alcoholic option. Or, I do like non-alcoholic beers. Like, I am one of those types of people that I do like to order those if I know they have them. But it's like, if you go to a bar and then you ask for one, they don't have them. It's kind of embarrassing. It really is. Like, it's 100% is. Or, ask for their non-alcoholic options and they use the funny joke, well, we have water. Like, bro, that's not even, like, that's right. So funny. I heard that one. Last time I heard that one, I fell off my dinosaur. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. When I learned to accept that.
You want to learn my new drink?
Sure. Yes. I want to know it.
Club soda or mineral water with 3 limes and salt around the rim.
Oh.
Fucking delicious.
That does sound good.
Some guy gave it to me in Mexico like a month ago. Like, Natalie and I were sitting in a cabana. And he couldn't understand that I didn't drink. Couldn't understand. He was like, yes, senor, you have drink. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking drink. No, like, a water. And then he made up this drink for me with, like, down here, it's Topo Chico.
Yeah.
Everywhere, right? But so it's Topo Chico, salt, and fucking a couple of limes. And it is fantastic. And you won't even think about anything. Tip.
Yes. I'm always wanting to find like some good non-alcoholic options, because the mocktails just are so sweet.
They are.
So that's good to know. I'm going to try that. I am. But it's like, for fitting in, I kind of learn to accept that everybody's different, and there is no reason that you should feel inclined to be like somebody else simply because that's all you're seeing around you. And at first it was pretty easy, but then once I got back into the real world, I guess, because when I quit drinking, I got COVID. I think that like the next month or something. And so I wasn't really able to go anywhere. And then, I don't know, it was easy. But then once I started, going out places, it registered to me that, these things are always going to be there. You just have to learn to live with it, because it just didn't work for me the way that it works for other people. So I definitely do think it did have a big control over me. Looking back, I think that, I used to always push it. I'm not going to drinking it for 2 weeks. And like should have been my answer. That should have been my answer, that if you're having to set a deadline, that's your answer. Like, it's got control over you. Yep. It shouldn't have to get to that point. And it took me going through that really, really, really horrible time in my life to make it to where I am now. And it's so cliche to say that, you have to go through the bad to get to the good, but it's so true. Like, my mindset wouldn't have changed if I hadn't have gone through that. I would have kept going down the same road, or I wouldn't have been here. So it's like, I really needed that kick in order to get here.
Do you have anybody in your circle that lives the same lifestyle that you do now?
Being sober?
Yeah.
Like I said, like, most of my friends do drink, but like, I've been told that I've really motivated them, and I've really changed their mindset, because I'm putting my ideals and my experiences out there for the world to listen to. And I've had, strangers reach out to me saying that I've kind of impacted them.
Love that.
So, my friends, I've been told by them that I've really inspired them. So whether they still drink or they don't drink every once in a while, whatever, I do think that it has, changed them a little bit, and they've learned to accept me as who I am in my lifestyle. And I've never been looked down on by anybody in my life. And if I was, they wouldn't be in my life anymore.
Yeah.
So
my suggestion is find somebody though,
yeah,
that is actually living the same path as you, right? Because all those people's support is amazing. And it's great that they're not like shitting on you or making you feel bad for the life choices that you're making and all that kind of stuff. But there's nobody there per this conversation that is actively holding you accountable to it either, maybe. And I truly believe to be able to live this life that we want to live, if we truly believe that, like, for us, drinking is a bad fucking idea because of the consequences that'll come from it. And it doesn't matter what you're doing in life, right? Again, I'll go back to a fucking revolt retreat, right? What do we preach in that? Accountability, right? We have accountability groups. We have, when you do the 6 bricks, you have to write a fucking accountability partner for every thing that you want to accomplish in your life, right? And I mean, this is one of your bricks, right? You don't want to drink. At least today, you don't want to drink, right? I mean, when I wake up every day, all I tell myself is that I'm not drinking today, and I'll worry about tomorrow, right? Now, I know after being sober for 13, 14 years, I'm probably not going to drink next week or next month or next year either, but bad mentality to have, right? So I just say, I'm not going to drink today. And when I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll make that same deal with myself that it's just today. Just today, get through the day, go to bed, commit to yourself that today, when you go to bed, you're sober, right? And then eventually you've got years put together, right? And your life's changed and you're successful and you've got all these things, right? But I know that I couldn't do that without other people holding me accountable, right? Now, another thing that does help you be accountable. So first thing is you got to find that person. If you don't leave here today with anything but that, and you get on that fucking plane to fly to Orlando tomorrow, I want you cursing me on the plane going, fuck, he got in my head. I have to find that goddamn person. Right. And you're going to text me in 2 days and be like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I thought about it the whole goddamn time. You got to find that accountability partner to be able to, because you don't have anybody, it sounds like to me, that if you're going through a struggle that's making you think about going back out, you don't have anybody that gets it.
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, other than me, maybe, right? That you could call to be like, man, I'm going through this right now, and it's making me think about, like, I kind of want to drink right now. Like, have you ever been through that? And if you go talk to a normal person that's never been through the shit that you've been through and the feelings that you've been through, they're going to be like, well, fuck it, just have a drink then, you'll be fine. Right? Yeah. That's probably what they'll say, right? Now, if you called me, what the fuck do you think I'd tell you? Right? Fucking, Jenna, just not today.
Yeah.
Just not today. And then call me in the morning and let me know that you didn't, right? You got to find that person, right? There was something else I was saying. I can't fucking remember what it was, but please do that.
Yeah.
Please do that for me and for everybody else that's in your life, because you're an amazing individual. And if you continue down this road that you're on, you are going to fucking blow every goal that you have ever set in your life out the goddamn window. Like, you are going to just slay fucking dragons if you do that. Like, I just know it. Like, I can see it. Every time I see you at an event, you are all over the place. And there's no way you could do that if you went back to your old life.
No, not at all.
Right? Tell me about, I didn't know this about you, that you did acting.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Did you know I acted?
I did not know that.
Let's go to you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Are we best friends now?
We are best friends.
All right.
So I started acting. So I started theater when I was about 15.
Okay.
So I didn't talk until I was 5. So fun fact.
Really? Mm-hmm. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. And
what'd they think they're going to do with you?
I don't know.
Did they think there was something wrong with you?
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did. But my mom still has the papers, and I'm not joking about that. I didn't talk until I was 5. It was weird. I would like mimic the people on TV, and I always knew that I wanted to be on a stage or in front of a camera. So I started talking when I turned 5. My mom had studied theater. That really inspired me to want to continue, doing that. And so I did theater, and then I got signed to an agency when I was 16 for film. And then I've done, commercials, extra work. I was in a docuseries 2 years ago, and I've kind of taken a break from it. I don't know if it was just like a dream for a little while or a goal that I really want to pursue.
Yeah.
I still haven't really done anything since a year and a half ago, 2 years. I don't know if I'm ever going to get back into it, but I've got to perform theater in London twice, for the London Theater Company. So I got to do that twice.
What was that like?
It was life changing. I got to travel a good bit in college.
What did you do? What did you perform?
So I auditioned to go over there. So USC Upstate, the college that I went to, they chose limited number of students to go over there. So I auditioned and I got in both times. So we took 2 original plays over there. So we performed at the Rose Theater in Kingston. So I got the opportunity to perform there twice.
Wow.
So that was life changing. Got to travel and stuff after that. They paid for it all. So that was amazing. And so I've definitely gotten to do, a good bit, there's always more out there. So maybe one day I'll end up back doing it. But I love what I do now, and, acting and full-time job is difficult. So.
Yeah.
But it was great.
So did you love the acting part or being on stage?
I just love the ability just to take your experiences and turn them into a character, and just able to just take your life and intertwine it with the character's life and just make a whole new person. I think that's the magic of acting that a lot of people don't think about, is what you can do with a character that involves your own experiences. So I think that just the art in general and just the energy that you get when you're on stage or in front of a camera.
Because there's a lot of people that do it to hide.
Yeah.
Right? Like to hide from their real life because they get to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Right? Because I always wondered if that was why I did it as well. Like, because I wasn't cool with who I was, because again, goes back to the not fitting in. So I never figured that out, but I always asked myself that question. Like, did I love it because of that? Or did I love the performing? Or did I love being on stage? I was the guy who played football in high school, right? Like starting football players, state champs, fucking blah, 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 blah. But I was in drama and like fucking was up on stage, like doing, I don't know what the fuck I was doing, but I was in one acts. Okay. I was in one acts. And then we actually had this, back then they called it forensics. I don't know why, by the way, because forensics is like CSI.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. Do you know why, Lexi, why they called it forensics? It doesn't make any sense. But so they called it forensics. And so you would do these weird little, like the one that we did was called like an OID, an oral interpretation of drama. And you had to sit like with your people. So if there was like 3 of us, so the one that we did, there was 3 of us, and we were all football players. And we showed up to these fucking nerd conventions, right? And it was all just nerds. Keep in mind, this was back in 96, right? So all these nerds with like silk shirts, that was a thing, right? They had silk shirts that just sweat fucking coming out of the silk shirts, right? And we show up like with our football leather jackets and, we're like nerds, like, did you ever see the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I was that guy. But we go in there and they're like, what the fuck are these, jocks doing here or whatever? And we go in and we win. We'd win. But let me tell you how. So I loved it, right? So that was, I was performing because I loved it. But our coach gave us like this OID, this oral interpretation of drama, that was 3 drunken high guys sitting in a graveyard talking. So you had to sit. It was so fucking weird. You had to sit like this, and I had Jamin and Ryan right here, and we couldn't look at each other. So you had to look at the judges as you were doing that, and you could look like this way, but you couldn't actually interact with the person that you were doing it with. Well, Jamin and Ryan would get drunk and high before we went and performed.
Actually do it?
Yes.
Wow.
I actually didn't back then. So I was the sober one. So when these two fucking twats would forget their lines, I remembered their lines and would keep them going. And so then when you get done, they would write, like notes and reviews and give you your points and all that kind of shit. And I swear to God, we had so many reviews that go, it was so lifelike. They really seemed drunk and high. I'm like, because they were, motherfucker. Like they were out of their goddamn minds. But I think that that's also part of the reason why, like for me, I love being on stage now.
Yeah.
Because I lost that. Right. And I love being able to speak and convey a message. Yeah. Right. It's why, like the highlight of my year last year was getting to do my 45 minutes at RoofCon. Right. And it went so much better than what I ever even imagined it would, and the feedback that I got from it. But it got me like even more excited, which is why I'm, kicking Michael off as MC this year. I'll just keep saying that. But I love that. So like, I get that. And I love that you did that. And I hope that you try to figure out ways to at least still have it in your life.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I know that you're swamped with what you're doing now, but is that in the back of your head? Like, is there just like little things I know you can't do it professionally for a job, whatever right now, but is that in the back of your head? Like, man, I'd like to just dip my toe back in it a little bit.
I think it's always going to be in the back of my head because I know that I have the talent for it. I mean, like, and it's just having talent and then not using it.
Yeah. That's frustrating.
Yeah.
Right. Well, when we're filming our documentary, right. And to get it entered into certain things, we have to have, what's the fucking thing? Reenactments.
Oh, so that's what I did back in 2021 was docuseries. Okay. So I did reenactments of like a real life woman.
Yeah. So we have to figure that out. So we'll get Jenna for our reenactments for our documentary.
There we go.
When we finish it out. So, okay, Jenna, thank you for being here today. I don't know how many of these you've ever watched, but at the end, we always give the floor back to our guest because I always forget something to bring up, or you had something in the back of your head that you're like, I hope this idiot asked me this question. So now is that time to give final thoughts to the audience, to me, to whatever that you want to make sure that people walk away with today.
Yeah. So if you are somebody that is, not even around my age, but you've shared the same, experiences that I've had and you've gone through it. You were talking about the accountability partner. So when I first got sober, I came across this girl on TikTok that was literally going through the same things that I was. So people are out there that are going through what you're going through.
Who was it?
So she was actually on my very first podcast episode.
Okay.
And so her...
Like you were on hers?
No, she was on mine.
She was on yours.
She was my very first guest. So I brought her on there. Her name's Audra. I brought her on there and I told her that because of her and because of the people that I found off of TikTok, people from all over the world, it made me feel better about myself and what I was doing and the message that I was trying to convey. And it's like... I want to be the change that I want to see and that I want to be. And I think that if anybody is thinking about wanting to, with alcohol, wanting to drink less, wanting to just quit in general, wanting to rethink their relationship with it, I think it all starts with you. And that's just, I think you really need to...
being honest.
It starts with being honest about what you want and being intentional with your drinking. And if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, if you find yourself repeating these patterns, you're only going to get worse. And it's only going to mess up your life and really, really good situations in your life. So it's like, stop while you can. Don't let it get to that point that others let it get to and they're not here. So I think that it's very, very important to start with you and then to reach out to people. You can't do it alone.
Yes, I think that is a very good way to end this, is reach out to people, right? If this is a journey that you're going to take, you have to have other people in your life that you can talk to about it. You cannot do it hiding in your room, right? And pretending to be one thing in public and then trying to be something else in private. It goes back to the whole premise of the show of being authentic and being who you are, right? And being okay with it and owning it, right? Whoever that is, it doesn't matter who the fuck it is. It's owning who you are and then learning how to be happy about that, right? Because sometimes that's not easy. And it's another reason that we go back and we start drinking and using again, because we're not happy with the person that we are. So it's more of a symptom than the actual problem, if that makes sense. So thank you so much for coming in here. Thank you for flying all the way here and being part of this. You're amazing. You're going to do amazing things. Stay on the path till you find the accountability partner. You can always call me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please share this shit. We do not have sponsors. However, Zyn, for all your nicotine needs, they won't fucking sponsor me, but I'm going to keep promoting them until they see my shit and then they take me on. Tucker Carlson is now a big Zyn fan. I think he's trying to get a sponsorship. He thinks it actually like cures cancer or something because it's just nicotine. And it's just nicotine, folks. There's no tobacco in it. So Zyn for all your nicotine needs. Thanks for tuning in. Share this. Let people know that we're trying to help people. Get this to as many people as you can. And remember, everybody, be authentic. And get the fuck out.
Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic.